Alright cats, welcome back to musiceducationforall.com, and today we're talking about how to learn patterns, how we memorize patterns, and why it's good for you. So we're going to look at this John Coltrane pattern, and I just kind of want to walk through some ideas on how you can memorize these things and some of the tricks that I use to memorize something that is pretty complicated. Actually, it's got a lot to it, and we can discuss the harmony at another time and what he's actually doing here and why it's really cool. There's actually another video on this exact pattern, but I was practicing it, and so I wanted to share these things with you. So if we look at this first line, the first thing that I did to start memorizing this pattern is looking at just these first four notes. And if we look at these first four notes, we see that we're going straight up this minor scale. So he's playing 1, 2, flat 3. Oops. Just erase that. Flat 3. And 4 or 11. It's not writing so well. There we go. And 4 or 11. So let me just erase that so we're not making this too messy. But you get the idea. Going straight up the minor scale here. And that, I'm just going to circle that actually. These first four notes, I started learning all of the keys, just the first four notes, and as you see, it's just straight up the minor scale. 1, 2, flat 3, and 4, 11. So you could just start, and I'll play it for you on saxophone. Etc., etc. You get the idea. And now to memorize the next section of it, the way I think about it, and there's a lot of different ways to do this, it's just an idea, is that I have this starting note. So I have the starting note, say C, and the second four notes in the pattern, starting with the second four notes, it's going up by a half step. So you have this D flat right here, right there. And look at the motion that these next four notes go. So you've got D flat, and then the next note is C, and the next note is B. So you've got all chromatic half steps right there. So you're just moving in half steps, D flat, C, and B. And then you're moving back to D flat right here. And so that D flat carries over to here. So it's the same note that you started with. So up minor scale, and then half step up from where you started, down 2 half steps, and back to where you started from the fourth note. Make sense? I hope so. Okay. Now, I think I would have played this actually up an octave, because you'll see that instead of jumping up from D to B flat here, notice there's B flat in the key signature. The pattern really is moving down a major third. So maybe this one, well, I would have just started this up an octave so that it moves down. So let's look at this. So usually it's moving down, major third, and we're starting now with this B flat. So we got B flat, A flat, G flat, and E flat. I'll play that for you. You could think of that as E flat minor. So I'm just playing this and trying to get these sounds in my head. So again, I'm looking at this B flat, and I am moving by whole steps, 2 whole steps down to E flat. So you could think of that as an, E flat minor chord, or you can think of it intervallically, a couple of different ways. However, it's the same thing, the same movement, of up a half step from these points. Boy, that did not work very well. Half step. And then look at this one. He's going from B, and the next part of this, he's going up a half step again. And that is a straight, you could think of that as an E minor triad, right here. And E minor triad, you could think of it as up a fourth here, and then down major third again. Oops, dropped that. Wow. Down major to major third, or minor third rather. So there, and then you can think of this as, you might want to think of this as the third of D to D, root, second or 9, and back to that same note. And then instead of the next motion up a half step, he's moving down a half step. So I guess the point of it all is this, I think, is I'm using these points as reference to learning the pattern. And I'm just starting real slowly and working on each part of it, and then adding as I go. So this would be something to consider when you are trying to learn some of these patterns and trying to tackle some of these longer and more difficult patterns. Stick with it. I also want to say a couple things about writing out patterns. Kevin and I were discussing this earlier, and we really think that it is really worth it to write these things out on your own, and not just use books like this. It's really good for you. It's good for your handwriting, your notation, and it's a good mental exercise. And the reason why I learn and work on patterns in 12 keys is not just because I want to get the pattern itself under my fingers, but I want to use the pattern as just a mental challenge and see if I can see how well I can hear it. And that's really the thing, is being able to actually hear and expand your ear and know where the pattern is going. So these are just some things to work on, to think about, to try. There's a lot of different ways to think about the learning process. So I hope that this makes sense, and maybe someone out there get some good ideas on how to tackle these things and incorporate them into your music. So thank you all so much for checking it out. I hope you dig it, and we'll do a lot more of these things. Cheers.